Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Wanted to come to you today with a book tag. This was a book tag that originally should have been done on Tuesday. And then I tried it again yesterday morning on Wednesday. And both times were a big fail. Right now, of course, we're on summer vacation, and when I do these videos, my 5-year-old daughter tends to wake up and come downstairs, and she likes to interrupt the videos. So I haven't gotten these done like I had originally planned. She came down and started shooting me with a Nerf gun on Tuesday, and then yesterday her and her mother came down and they were talking, not realizing I was videoing, and then they started getting breakfast ready, and so I just was like, okay, we can just wait another day. So here I am. I'm going to try this again, and this is going to be the Deja Vu Book Tag. I've seen this one going around the last couple of weeks, but I think it's a little bit older. I forgot to look at the original date that it was put out, but I think it's been around for a few weeks. But I've seen it the last week or two several times, and I saw it on Sean Standfast's and James Holder's channels, and I'll leave the links to those down below. And it was originally done by Walker Wrights, and so this is all about reading books, rereading books. Excuse me. It's all about rereading books. Do you reread? And I did a tag. It's been a while, but it was like the Reread book tag, I think, something like that. And these questions are similar, but there's a few extras that are thrown in that are a little bit different. So anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into these questions. So the first question in the Deja Vu book tag is, do you reread and how often? And the question is, yes, I do reread. I keep all of my books that, if I read a story that I enjoyed reading, I keep the book with the thought that I will reread it again sometime in the future. And so I do reread. I reread. So it asks how often. I probably reread, I'm going to guess at least 4 or 5 books a year are rereads for me. It's typically fiction books. I always read around Christmas time, Skipping Christmas by John Grisham. I always reread that at Christmas time. And I always read the nonfiction book, The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave. I reread that with my kids in class. And there's some other rereads that I go through with my kids in class, but those are my 2 that I do every single year. And there are several other Grisham books that, I'll pick 1 or 2 of them every year to read, and I kind of cycle through them every few years. But anyway, number 2, why do you or don't you reread? Well, I reread because I enjoy the stories. Why would you reread if you did not enjoy the stories? So I enjoy the stories, so I want to read them again. It's I kind of put this like watching reruns on TV. Why do you watch reruns? Well, because you enjoyed the show. You thought it was funny. You just enjoyed the storyline. A book is no different. You're going to reread for the simple fact that you enjoyed it. I could tell you the other night I was lying in bed and I was too tired to read, but not tired enough to fall asleep yet. And I was watching Frasier on TV. And I've probably seen the episode 4, 5, 6 times, but I was rewatching it and still enjoying it. I'm still laughing out loud at the storyline. I think it's funny. And my books are the same way. I enjoy the story. I will reread it and I'll smile and snicker, even though I've read the book a couple, 3 times. That's just how it is. So I do it for enjoyment. I also like to, I guess I should throw this in, because I keep all my nonfiction books. I don't necessarily reread the entire nonfiction book, but I take notes in my books as I read them, and I use those notes in my classroom when I'm teaching. And so I'll go back and reread passages from books that I think would help my kids in class. I might even use a whole chapter out of a book So to me, that's a bit of a reread as well. Maybe not the whole book, but a chunk of it. So question number 3, what have been your favorite books to reread? So for me, I have 2 authors that I really like to reread, John Grisham and John Jakes. I love legal thrillers. It's like watching, it's a little bit like watching Law and Order on TV. I could watch those over and over again. I really enjoy those. And so the legal thriller, although it's not always along the same lines as Law and Order, but the legal thriller by John Grisham, I have always enjoyed. He does a good job with his novels. I just got done reading his latest one. It has 3 short stories. It's called Sparring Partners, and I enjoyed that. I probably like his full-length books better than the short stories, but that's all right. And so I reread those, and I really like, of course, I'm a history guy, so I like historical fiction a whole lot. And so John Jakes was one of the first authors I fell in love with his work, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. He really got me back into reading as an adult when I was in college. And so I go back and reread his stuff. I know Scott over at the Bookish Bryants, over the last couple years, we've read from his Camp Family Chronicles series, and we've been rereading it's a reread for me. He had not read them before, but they're rereads for me, and I've probably read them 4 or 5 times all the way through the series, but I'm still enjoying them. And I think I'm going to try to do the North and South series sometime this year. I'm going to try to reread through those because I haven't done those 3 in a long time. But anyway, so number 4. What would you like to reread? All right, so the North and South series by John Jakes. It's a trilogy all about the Civil War and about a Northern family who befriends a Southern family and all of the controversy over slavery and the Civil War that come about through that relationship. I want to reread those. And then another one that I would really like to reread, let me grab it here, and I've seen people reading it or rereading it on BookTube for the last month or 2, especially this month with it being June on the Range, is Lonesome Dove. I would love to go back and reread Lonesome Dove sometime, and I may try to tackle it this year. I probably will wait till next year, June on the Range. That would be a good time to tackle Lonesome Dove again. But I don't know. I might dip into it. I'm kind of excited about the thought of it, and so I've been toying with that idea. That is a reread that I definitely want to do. Let's see. Number 5. What book do you predict will be so good you will want to reread it? Okay, so right now I have read the first 2 volumes in Ken Follett's Century Trilogy series. Fall of Giants, awesome book, and Winter of the Worlds, awesome book. And those were all based around, Fall of Giants was based around World War I, and this one was based around World War II. And now I am ready to begin sometime soon Volume 3, which I'm just eating up these works. And I know they will definitely be rereads for me. I also picked up, let's see if I can find it here. What did I do with it? I also picked up Volume 2 in his, and I cannot find it. I have it somewhere. But anyway, I also picked up Volume 2 in his series on the medieval time period about the building of a church in medieval Europe. And I don't know a ton about the series, but because of the Century Trilogy, I want to read those as well. So I found book 2 for a quarter the other day, and I picked it up, and I plan on reading that, but I can't get to it until I get book 1. I need to get the first book. But those are definitely going to be books I'm going to want to reread sometime in the future. Now, they're big books, so I might wait a couple years before I read them because they do consume a lot of time, but they are good. Let's see. Number 6, pick a book from your younger years that you would be interested to reread? All right, so I'm going to pick a whole series of books. I really want to reread all of Michael Crichton's books. I love Michael Crichton. I kept all of my books, and I have read and reread all of them at least a couple of times, and I would like to go through all of his work again. I loved, Jurassic Park, Sphere, Congo, all of those books that he wrote. I just thoroughly enjoyed them, and I would like to go through them again someday, maybe soon, because I've been thinking about that one. All right, number 7, tell us a series or book that's so big or complex that you need to reread to better understand. All right, so the one, I'm going to pick 2 books. They kind of go with each other because they're the same author, but the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. I would really like to go back and reread those. I read those in high school I think I was a senior. I may have been a junior, but I think I was a senior in high school. We had a class, Great Books was the name of the class, and that was one of the books that we had tackled, and I remember really liking the book. Now, it took me 4 or 5 times reading the first chapter to kind of get with the flow of the language, but once I did, I ate that up. And honestly, I don't know. I think it was the original unedited version, obviously transcribed, but the unedited version. But I need to go back and make sure. I just remember really liking the book, and I'd like to go back and try to read those again. So number 8, is there a specific type of genre you think best or worst for rereading potential? I think for me, and I think this is going to vary, really this question will vary with the reader because it's going to be based on their tastes, really. And for me, like I've already mentioned, those thrillers, those legal thrillers, I really like those. That's why they're so easy to reread for me. I love mysteries and historical fiction. And so for me, those are the easiest ones because there's a lot of times when you get to, like in a mystery, you get to the end of the book, you figure out who the killer was or, whatever the mystery was. And then when you go back and reread it, oftentimes you start picking up stuff in the story, different clues that the author dropped in, and you didn't catch it the first time. So it's like reading the book all over again. Or of course, you're reading it all over again. It's like reading the book for the first time all over again. And I just like that. And like I had said, I like historical fiction, so I can reread those because I just enjoy history. Those are the ones I think are the best. As far as the worst, I don't know, because I don't pick books that I don't like to reread because I don't want to waste my time. I already know I don't like them, so I can't really pick the worst. Number 9, is there a book you've liked more upon a reread? I found that when I read Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, when I reread that book, I actually enjoyed it more the second time than I did the first time. And I don't know if it's because I was just more in the zone when I was reading it, so to speak. But I just found myself enjoying that when I picked up on more of the stuff and enjoyed Michael Crichton's, just the flow of his writing and his storytelling. So that's the one I really liked for the one I liked more upon rereading. Number 10, is there a book you've liked less upon rereading? Okay, so, and I need to give this a try again. Upstairs in the upper room, I have the Wagons West series by Dana Fuller Ross. And I read through all of those. There are a bunch in that series. I can't remember, is there 27 or 28, maybe? Maybe it's just 24. It's somewhere in the 20s, the first series of Wagons West. I want to say there's 28, but don't quote me on that. I definitely could be wrong. But there was 28 books or so. They had a spin-off series that had 3 books from the early frontier. They had a spin-off series of, it was 10 or 12 more books that brought it more into the later 1800s and into the 1900s. I read all of those, bought all those, read all those. I really enjoyed the entire series. But I went back and I tried to reread that very first book called Independence. and I found myself not enjoying it nearly as much. And I didn't get very far into it, and I just put it down because I didn't want to have a negative experience and end up putting a mental block on the entire series. So one thing I would like to do is go back and try to reread that series and see if I can get into it again. And then I will know whether it was worth keeping them all on my bookshelf, because they take up a couple of bookshelves worth altogether. And, if I don't like them, I might consider just getting rid of them so they're not taking up space. But anyway, that's one I found that I liked a little bit less. And like I said, it might have been the mood I was in when I tried to reread that first book. So we're going to try that one again. So number 11. If you reread, let us know a book you'd like to reread before the end of this year. Okay, so one that I would like to reread, I told you I like to reread John Grisham books. I'd like to go reread A Painted House. I really like that book by John Grisham. It's really good. It's not necessarily it's not a legal thriller like his typical books. It's based in Arkansas on a cotton farm in the 1950s, and it talks about poverty on those farms, and there's some stuff that deals with the socioeconomic status of people and how that affected people, and there's a murder and just all kinds of good stuff in that book, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It was also a decent movie. I liked the book better than the movie, but it was decent. So that's one I would like to reread before the end of the year. And number 12 is tag some friends for this Deja Vu Book Tag. And here's who I'm going to tag. I'm going to tag Mark at Book Time with Elvis. I'm going to tag Book Time with Ryan. And I'm going to tag Colin over at Page to Page. I'd like to hear all their answers. So anyway, thank you, BookTube, for reminiscing with me in my rereads in this Deja Vu Book Tag. If you haven't done this, I know I tagged just 3 people, but if you haven't done it, feel free to do it. Open up that to everybody. It's always good to look back at, what are you rereading? What is your reasoning for rereading? So anyway, until next time, BookTube, like I said, thank you for watching and happy reading.